Hi, I am so grateful to have a friend and former colleague join me today, Jared Bryson, whose leadership journey and encouragement and really integrity as a leader is always something that I have looked to as a model. And so I'm so excited to have Jared tell us a little bit about what his leadership journey has looked like. How it has evolved. And Jared, I do want to talk to you obviously about your LinkedIn presence. I'll just throw this out there as we jump off in the conversation. I just checked before we got on the call. You have 4,440 followers on LinkedIn. Did you know that?
I knew it was somewhere around there. That sounds great.
Okay, so I have been, working with leaders locally and across the country on digital presence, and LinkedIn is something that a lot of leaders talk about. And so I have been doing some research on, how many LinkedIn followers a typical user has. And that following puts you in the top 5 to 10% of
Hmm,
LinkedIn users.
great.
Crazy, huh?
That is kind of crazy.
So we'll jump in and talk a little bit more about that later. But first, I would just love to hear more about you. Where are you in your, career path right now, and a little bit about what got you there.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the opportunity to chat about it. I started, and I don't want to go back to like childhood leadership stuff, but to be very honest, I started out in scouting as a national leader in scouting. I was kind of thrusted into that kind of leadership work. And ever since then, I really have seen myself really how do I can be of service to the community in the best way possible. And that was really what kind of the impetus. For the last 15 years before I moved into the role of Catholic Charities, I worked for a large Catholic healthcare system, really helping leadership think about leadership and what is it they're trying to kind of accomplish as an organization. That later moved me into my current role at Catholic Charities in St. Louis. We are the second largest social service organization behind the state of Missouri for Missouri, and the fourth largest nonprofit in the St. Louis region. So about 1,400 coworkers across our organization, about $110 million in operation. So
Wow.
pretty expansive organization trying to move that. But part of the reason my move here was really to help bring together the 30 plus legal entities into one operating organization with a common culture. That was the kind of charge. And since culture and it was a lot of the work that I did in my previous work, that's kind of been playing out for this current job.
Mhm. That's great. Well, what are some changes or things that you put into place, as a leader when you stepped into that new role?
So I went from being a coach and kind of sitting on teams where you're just kind of in the place where I just hope someone listens to me to in a role right now when I say something, things change. And there's a level of early on, I'm like, oh wait, I can't just say that anymore. And when you are an external thinker, sometimes you can't just wonder with a group because they think you're actually talking like that's been the biggest change. So in my previous work as a vice president, I could wonder, I could get folks to kind of collaborate together and be creative. Um, it's really much more challenging to do that as the CEO, and I have to usually kind of couch everything with like, look, I'm trying to drive some dialogue and some questions, and this is whatever comes out of my mouth is not the gospel truth. I don't need it to be. I just want to start a dialogue. It has taken a lot of sitting back. I'll ask one question and then not give my opinion until everything is out there. Because it's tough when I can connect up some other parts and maybe change the direction, but not to do it.
Yeah.
Uh, that's been a big learning part for me.
Mhm.
The other part is how do I have administrative skills, but I also have formational skills.
Mhm.
How do I lean into formation rather than administration? There are you always need those administrative things to do
Yeah.
and kind of tactical. But how do I really speak at a deeper level for the organization. That's where I kind of start to lean more in this work, trying to connect with the vision, the why, the how.
Mm-hmm. So you're kind of flexing like some different leadership skills there, it
Yeah.
sounds like, but I know you, I know you're very well equipped to do that. So you said a couple things there that are triggering, thoughts and questions for me. One is, you know, having the discernment to catch yourself when you're like thinking out loud. And I actually think this is a leadership skill that translates really well online because something that I encourage leaders to do and to have confidence to do is to think out loud on their social media. But I don't mean like thinking about a laundry list of, challenges or complaints or things that are annoying you at work or, whatever. What I mean is just being more open about how your thinking is evolving on a specific issue or on an idea and letting people who work alongside you see, your thought process and kind of learn more about you as a leader. Is that something that you've been open to doing online, and how does that go for you?
Yeah, so I have to go. I go two routes with that. There's the formal organizational communications that I do that we have in our weekly mission matters that comes from my office, and that's one way. Then I have a Substack that I
Yeah.
use outside the organization. It does identify me kind of that role, but it is not meant to be the platform by which I govern the organization. Is really meant to be out there, and it's
Mhm.
the place where I try to explore other ideas and things in leadership that I have been playing with and thinking through and kind of walking through, but also how my thoughts have continued to evolve. Um, I think what was it this past week? I wrote a little article on just giving yourself a little hermit time in praise of that. What does it look like to create space in a calendar and to really not value yourself as a leader based on productivity?
Mhm.
Uh, Doing those unique things that you only you can do, and trying to explore that. And for me, and my the organization knows this about me, is that I'm always trying to constantly, what's the right amount of meetings and white space and all of that stuff? And really, it's the wrong question. The question is about what is it that you hope to accomplish, and what do you need to get to that end goal?
Mhm. It's
Uh,
intention.
and much more about the intention. So that's where I get to see that evolve is on the Substack stuff.
So what prompted you to start the Substack? And was there any like internal battle like, is this tooting my own horn? Is this like is this, too much of myself? Are people going to perceive this in the wrong way? Like did you have any of that internal struggle
I
before you hit
still,
post?
I still have a lot of that. When you're the CEO, often my whole life is mostly dedicated to this organization. When I'm not here, I'm with my family doing family stuff. And sometimes it's more here than it is in family. Sometimes it just depends. And so creating an online presence that is tied to but separate from, uh, some people perceive it as a networking, as a getting your next platform for your next gig. And I wrestle with that because that's not what for me it's about. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I do recognize, though, as a leader, I already have a platform by which I need to engage with society around, and that's a huge part. So our roles as leaders are not just meant for our institutions. But when we think about civic engagement and social responsibility, as a leader, we've got to translate what's going on in our organizations and what's going on in society in a way that can create a vision that others can rally around. And so many times I'm responding to what I'm hearing in the community. So I think like this week I in my hermit life post reflected on more what got me around the baseball field and how it applies to leadership. all the parents are exhausted, running around from game to game, and we're getting ready for fall ball and all the back to school stuff. And just as much as that's important for us as parents to really rethink that, it's a huge learning place for leaders. Yeah, I feel
I I love that. I could like quote you all day long on what you just said about your role as a leader is you really are that sort of outward facing public image of your organization, both for outside stakeholders and for the, volunteers, in your case, board members, donors, and, coworkers.
yeah,
They need that compass and, someone who's sharing really authentically about themselves and how they relate to the mission. I do have um I brought with me like a little some stats about executive presence online because I was looking at your LinkedIn right before we got on. And one of them that I saw is that people prefer to work with leaders who are on social media 4 times more than leaders who are not. And I
interesting.
think that we can, make up some stories about why that might be, but does that resonate with you at all?
It does. In some ways, it's the old front porch model. So if you think about what the role of the front porch was in the community, it was about trying to find ways to bridge the external unknown to the known. And you never got into the straight to the kitchen to sit down and have a good conversation with somebody without brushing off the unknown part at the front porch, if you will. So I see social media in that way. It is the way in which it puts your presence before you even show up into an organization or into a community. Um, and so that does play out in that way. Yeah,
Yeah,
huge.
and I'm curious too. I mean, obviously you have, all those years, breadth of experience in healthcare, in that sort of like coaching and mentoring space. That's how I got to know you. And in that time, certainly there was social media around, like everyone was on social media, but I don't think like we were getting any sort of guidance about what to share, about our careers or about our work online, except for I do remember, a lot of don'ts. Like don't post, patients' names or don't post anything negative. It was more a list of like cautionary tales
Yeah,
versus, some positive and some like good things that could come if you are thoughtful about this aspect of your leadership. um, like what do you wish leaders knew now? Like if you were, coaching, some up and coming executives, what would you share?
I would share that social media can be a big help for you as a leader and to expand your platform. It can also be a big hindrance for you. And so be cautious of what you share a little bit. I do have to say that because there are organizations who will look in your past feeds and start to say,
Mhm.
wait, is this who's going to represent us? And I'll honest, sometimes, those of us who are Gen Xers like myself, we are grateful that social media wasn't around during our college days, right?
Right.
Um, but that's not the case these days. And people embrace it long before they understand the implications of it. So I think trying to just be aware of that and do your cleaning, your household cleaning of your social media sometimes as a regular part of your life. At different stages in my life, I would go through and you turn off any post that you made from this date back, whatever it was, and just because you don't know what it's going to be and how someone's going to take it. And I would say as society continues to change and interpret things differently, you have to be very cautious about that sometimes. And
Mhm.
um, how often we probably watched cartoons from when we were kids, and now we watch them, we're like, oh, I
Yeah.
can't do that. Well, that's the same thing about our social media presence. So if you've got I have a historic Facebook account. My Facebook account was when you still had to have a .edu account to get one. Uh,
Mhm.
so that tells you how long ago that happened. But after a while, that's not who you are. And but you also, I think also as a society, we have to recognize that people grow and learn and change. And we can't just because they posted something 25 years ago when they were, right out of college, that's also a little challenging.
Mhm.
So we can clean up our own digital house a little bit and just be more conscious of when you're a leader, you're not a private person. You are a public official, whether you like it or not. If you're going to lead an organization, people are going to scrutinize you.
Mhm. Yeah, the other one of the other stats I have is 82% of employees research a CEO's online presence when considering whether to join an organization or company. I I don't know that the majority of C-suite leaders understand, the power and the relevance
Yeah.
of how they're using social media.
My favorite thing is periodically I look at my LinkedIn profiles of who searched me up, and I'll see, oh, they just started the organization a couple weeks ago. So they haven't connected with me. So I reach out to them and then I say, welcome aboard. You know, I may or may not ever see them as a coworker, having 1,400 across 11 counties. Sometimes I don't always run into people. And some work night shifts. So, it's kind of I still want to be able to connect to them because I do see every coworker, regardless of where they work, when they work, uh, they're my accountability. They're my responsibility. And so if they show up on my feed as they checked out your LinkedIn profile and you notice that they actually started at one of your organizations, I reach out. Welcome aboard. Hope you find it, as meaningful as I have. Whatever else, something simple.
Did you Was it your intention to build, that many followers on LinkedIn? Like, were you striving for that, or did it
No,
just sort of happen? And what are some steps that you took to reach that number there?
yeah, it was never my intent to kind of do that. One of my friends says it best that sometimes I spent a lot of my work days. It felt like connecting with people. And in my previous work, back when we used to work at our former companies, that's what I did. I across all the states, I met with all the
Mhm,
leaders, and I was always connecting. And but that was my key job. I think part of what came along with the LinkedIn profile kind of work is that I just carry that over. So if you look closely, sometimes you'll see that there's a lot of our former employer folks on there. Now that
mhm,
they've moved to other roles, when you're there for 15 years, also.
yeah,
So I started that account. I want to say I started the LinkedIn account before I started grad school, maybe undergrad, and so my undergrad time was from I would have traditionally graduated in '97 from undergrad, but I graduated in 2000 because I decided that I needed to think about things a little bit more and go figure out my life. So I took a little hiatus, but I believe I started it around that time, and that's just kind of grown. And I've kept an active presence on it, probably more so than I do. Like I see Facebook as my personal account, even though it's very public and people see it. And my marketing department here and I have been thinking about trying to move that away from being a private account and just move it to a public figure account.
mhm.
Um, but
Yeah,
I do
I
see.
would have some ideas and thoughts for you on that. We can follow up later.
All right, perfect. I've not chosen it one way or another. It's just I do share things about my kids and my family's on there, so that's a little bit different. But LinkedIn, I keep it all business, and that's really the focus where I spend my time around what's going on in society that I can speak into. What about leadership itself? And I have this unique niche of leadership in terms of much more holistic and faith based for those folks and values based. That's what I spent a lot of my life coaching on. So
Yeah. Well, I think, the other thing that comes up for me is you really are building, an influence and trust and authority, um, outside of your, specific role, because I think there's likely many leaders and individuals that you've interacted with over the years who are still depending on you for advice and guidance. And I
Oh,
mean,
I mean,
I think that
I hear
that's
what you're saying.
that's the cool thing about what digital space allows us to do. It's sort of like it takes off any sort of limitations almost on the time of our relationships, the distance of our relationships, and allows us to engage just as meaningfully, as we want to. And um, do you think about that, like the influence that you're having on people outside of just
Hmm.
the walls of your office?
Yeah, I've had a few former colleagues and some new ones actually now from other organizations that have reached out and said, I really like what you wrote. That was very helpful for me. I was able to implement it for something. Um, as I look at the Catholic Charities Network across the United States, I hear from a lot more of those leaders now coming in.
Yeah.
But I do hear from my former colleagues from other organizations who were just like, oh, I miss having those coaching sessions. This is kind of just like having one with you a little bit. So
Yeah,
it,
I will say, working in healthcare, it was at such a pivotal time in my career. It definitely wasn't like an intro level job.
right.
Um, but I would not say that I was a senior leader by any means yet. But the investment in my leadership skills that I got in healthcare, it's unmatched. Like, I don't know that many other organizations are doing that. I grew so much and learned so much. And I think colleagues did as well, just because we were getting poured into all the time. And working by myself, I really miss it. Like, I miss having that guidance and those little lessons. And sometimes I will go to LinkedIn for some of that. I'll just like scroll and kind of like see what I can find.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, how do you build your own kitchen cabinet of people, if you will, that you can lean in on? And whether it's a kitchen cabinet of people directly around you or near that you can pick up the phone, or it's someone that you look to read on a regular basis. I have authors here and there that I like to just go read what the latest thing they're writing.
Mhm.
Helps spur some thinking on. How much reading do you do in a week? Is another way to get that kitchen cabinet of people helping
Mhm.
you kind of grow. You have to watch some of it because some of it is um, it's a little bit it's not deep enough, at least from
Yeah.
my perspective. And so you have to figure out what the noise floor is that you are going to
Mhm.
take on
Yeah.
and listen through.
But I think that's where that, like, trust factor comes in on social media because, again, it's like I'm much more likely to stop at content, like, from you, for instance, because I know you, I've been in a meeting with you, I've sat across a table from you, I've had coffee with you, than I am to stop on, some other influencer who maybe has a much larger following, but who I don't automatically trust as much because I just have not had the proximity.
Well, and that's the other part. When you talk about other influencers in certain spaces of leadership, there's a difference when you listen to leaders who are either in a leadership role today and working through their stuff versus those who are consultants who are trying to make themselves, look like they're leading something.
Mhm.
Or they're just leading something differently. Or maybe they had a past experience. Um, but there is a lot of, okay, so I hear what you're saying. Now help us translate this in the operational world differently.
Right. Help us do it.
Yeah. And that's probably the toughest part. I've had consultants that have coached me on a lot of things, but have never been able to do it themselves. And so, like, okay, I understand that's what the book says for OD or this or that, but the reality is, I've got to navigate this particular unit. Um, so how do we help do that? And that's been I think as a leader, walking myself through it and trying to get out of the textbook mindset of it all.
Mhm.
Nothing wrong with the textbook. I mean, I spent a lot of time in school, having to, working through doctoral degrees and everything else like that. But taking leadership skills and really trying to set them out in an organization takes a different hands-on skill set.
Yeah. Switching gears just a little bit, something that you said a minute ago about your marketing team thinking about your Facebook. I was sitting with another nonprofit leader who represents a national association. It's been a couple months ago, and she was saying that, man, my marketing team has really been on me about social media. Like I'm not doing enough, my accounts aren't, engaging enough, and she's like, I don't know what to do. Like my accounts are mostly just family pictures, and I post my vacation. And she's like, I've got to start thinking about it differently. Um, Obviously that some of that is on your mind and on the mind of your team. What are some conversations that you all have had internally about using social media, about, the kind of presence that you want or that other leaders, on your team might need to have?
Yeah, so some of the real wrestling parts have been um, my Facebook account it's been personal mostly. Like it's pretty locked down. But it's personal, and yet at one point in time in my career, it was open to everybody. And if you knew me, you could be a part of it, all that kind of stuff. And I was intentional about letting everybody in. Um, right now, it's kind of on a lockdown mode, just because I don't want being tagged in different things that may
Hmm.
or may not have anything to do with me. Um, what we're trying to figure out, to be very honest, is um, how can I still have what I like and value out of Facebook, or in terms of my personal family stuff, without oversharing all of that for the world to see in my public profile. And
Hmm.
somehow you can't always get rid of that, which is why we're thinking about, do we transition me out of a personal account to a public uh,
Yeah.
kind of profile.
And do you think about like the cadence of how often you're sharing about work stuff or about your thinking or ideas? Like, is that on your mind? Is someone helping you with like producing content? What is that like for
And
you?
all content comes out of my pages, whether it's LinkedIn, it's me. It is not my departments upstairs. I let them run with the organizational pages.
Hmm.
Uh, and one of the things I try to balance, like on the Facebook side, personal and organizational stuff, because
Hmm.
there are a lot of things, I do a lot of social services to the poor that the people who are on my Facebook page in our region really like and want to be responsive to.
Yeah.
Like when the tornadoes came through the area, we're the disaster recovery organization, and people needed to know what to do. So I did a lot of that too.
Hmm.
The LinkedIn side is only work related. I try to at least do one post a week and one share a week of something else. Just because I share doesn't mean I endorse it. There may be something about it, but it's there.
Hmm.
Uh, I think more than that, you become noise.
Yeah.
But there's also a challenge with how the algorithms are set up, that you could also be silenced by it if you don't do certain amount of stuff on a regular basis.
Hmm.
So, that's challenging.
Hmm. Yeah, the LinkedIn algorithm is weird to me. Like I don't obviously all of the algorithms are in a black box. Like no one really knows what they do, and if a social media strategist is telling you that they know, it's probably a red flag. Um, but for LinkedIn, it's like the posts have a lot longer life than they do on Instagram or even on Facebook.
Yep.
I will get, a flood of likes on a post that I did 3 weeks ago on LinkedIn. I'm like, what is happening? I don't really understand the rhythm, but yeah, I think once a week is, a really nice, consistent cadence. I think that's the thing that senior leaders struggle with, at least that I see, is social media presence is a lot like working out. Like you can't just do it once every 6 weeks and expect results. You
Nope.
really have to be thoughtful about what your content that you're producing, the intention that you're setting, the outcome that you want every single week, or it's not going to be good for you. But it's hard. That can be overwhelming for a C-suite level leader who has so much on their plate. And yet I feel like it's really important. It's an important piece of leadership today.
It is.
Um,
Part of I try to post my Substack post on Tuesdays. Mondays are a nightmare of a day to try and do anything, either for people to consume or me to get a chance to do. But a lot of times, my post for Tuesday was started last week on Wednesday after I finished my last one. So, I keep a little notebook around, and I don't know, actually, you can see on the green screen. There you go. A little notebook around, just to kind of jot down a few thoughts and words. And I try to write around 250 words a day and just thoughts. Then I
Hmm.
pull it together over the weekend to really kind of hone it in of what I'm thinking about. And then sometimes I have these moments where, like this week, I was Monday night on the ball field and hearing every parent complain about just how life is so busy and they're tired, and it really struck a chord in me. And I went home that night, cranked it out, and then edited during the day, and then got it posted. So yeah,
Yeah. I feel like I'm stuck a little bit right now as someone who is helping and coaching leaders in this process, and everyone wants a system. Like they want the perfect system that's going to help them post and I have some like tools and frameworks, that I can help people with, but I personally haven't found a system that's
yeah,
foolproof. I'm kind of like you. I actually just enjoy the process of creating and thinking and writing. It is a creative outlet for me. It's an intellectual exercise that I enjoy. And I feel like it is something that you just have to be comfortable and confident stepping into as a leader, or you're not.
yeah.
Maybe
No,
you
no,
could work with a coach like me and I can help you, but, I haven't found the perfect system that's gonna do it for you.
no. I have changed my system several times to work for the season of my life. The thing that I struggle with the most, the writing part is not. I could write things all day long. It's the now things are much more video visual,
Mhm.
and I think we lose something sometimes in that work. But also, I understand the value of having video and visual. So what I have not done as a leader is done the video and visual part. I've done a lot of the writing part. That could be more about I find the video and visual so much more challenging because then I have to edit
Yeah.
uh, and do that stuff. And that I could edit a written document a whole lot quicker than I can a video that I would upload.
Yeah, that's where I think a team can really come in helpful. Like it's still the principal, the leader who needs to be producing the content and making the video, and then you hand over the raw footage to, someone who knows how to edit or, social media marketing person who can help you. But yeah, I think the video is really influential. I've been talking about it more on my social media. I feel like
Watch it.
ChatGPT and AI has just like moved us, into that direction. It's like every other post on LinkedIn, I feel like is written by AI, and the video is what makes you, like, stop in your tracks, like, "Oh, I know that person. What are they saying?"
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you're right, like, we're losing the ability to focus and have some, you know, concentration, some discernment. I don't I don't know. I don't know how to fix that.
No, that's a big societal push. That's for sure. We're gonna have to. I mean, I have three kids, so they all love, and we go to schools that have one-to-one technology schools. So it's a lot of trying to reposition. Like a book is a good thing, and the book is not on your tablet. The book has got to be physical. So like, I like to make rules about. I don't buy digital books. I was putting over here. I buy physical books so that I can sit and physically be tactile with it. I remember it more
Mhm.
than anything else, and so I also use that for my kids. Like, hey, let's grab a book instead of reading it on your tablet. We've got that book over the shelf, or if not, we'll just buy it. So uh,
Mhm.
it's a little bit different. I'm trying to. I don't want to sound like a luddite, but a little bit different in terms of the development for folks.
Yeah, it is different. You have to find your own style, in the medium that works best for you. But I would encourage you to try some video, see how it goes.
Well, and
We'll
the
have
question,
this clip that you can use.
There you go. I,
So,
the question that I bring up, so the stuff that I do for writing that I write is not does not translate the same if I was to do it for video.
mhm,
So I what I can't get my mind wrapped around is what's the content that I could produce for video that would
yeah.
be helpful from a leadership perspective and either complementary to the writing stuff, but I'm
Mhm.
not quite sure I'm there yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think if depending on your comfort level, like I could see you doing, a video in your car at the ballpark or like in the driveway after you got home and say, you know, these are some of the things that I was hearing tonight at the ball field. It's really heavy on my heart tonight, and I'm gonna work through this and share some ideas about how to slow down and how to take a break and enjoy whatever. And I'm looking forward to sharing that with you in a couple days. Hope you had a restful weekend or something. And that's
Oh,
like
I like that idea.
less than 30 seconds, and then you've sort of like set the, you know,
Yeah, set the stage for the post, if you will.
and that's that thinking out loud. It's like letting people on the inside of your brain that, like, hey, I am a full, flawed, thinking, evolving human in the same like busy schedule as you are. And
Mhm.
this is what my life looks like. And I'm also this really, influential and inspiring leader. Like I can be this full dimensional person. That the people who are doing that well on social media are the ones I love to follow.
That's awesome. I do like that it fills that out a little bit more. I really hadn't considered that. So that makes it even easier because there's no editing then needed.
Yeah, very
There-
a little bit of
there
editing, very slim. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Not as much as like you have to put back onto your system and do all that other stuff. So yeah.
yeah. Well, hey, Jared, this has been such a good conversation. I've really enjoyed spending some time with you.
Likewise.
Uh, I'm curious, what's next for you? Do you think you're gonna write a book or, what do you wanna do with your career and wisdom and expertise that you've built?
So I've been really discerning a leadership kind of retreat format that I would host other leaders, uh, kind of in a camping trip type of thing.
Mhm,
And trying to work through that a little bit more. I did a post about it a few weeks ago, just trying to think through what that might look like a little bit more and getting folks out in nature because so often um, there are other ways in which we learn to make decisions in the boardroom than being in the boardroom. And trying to be around your other peers and other leaders and being outdoors and reconnecting, regrounding in many ways. So
mhm.
I've been really kind of thinking through that a little bit more, and while it's not a
I
night.
love that. I think people are craving that, like, face-to-face connection, being, um, just, like, with each other in physical space and outside sounds even more fun.
Yeah, as long as it's not like the 90-degree heat and 120
Yeah,
degree.
don't yeah, you can't do that. You can't do that anywhere in Oklahoma anytime,
Correct. Same in St.
as
Louis,
you
right?
know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I really appreciate the conversation and what we're doing. I hope if I get back up to Oklahoma, I'd love connect up again. I was there
Yeah,
last
I would too.
I think I was there last September in Oklahoma City.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, it was for a brief in and out, but yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, well, obviously, we have Catholic Charities here in Oklahoma City too. I know a little bit about that organization, and they're doing really important work in our community. Do you
They
work with other I don't really how are you connected? Like, same 501(c)(3), or how does that work?
we're all separate 501(c)(3s, but as a part of the network, so we all know each other really well.
Yeah.
Uh, they have a beautiful housing project they just started there or
Mhm.
up there, which is what I know from them because we're trying to borrow some of that for here. Yeah,
Well,
been great.
how can people find you online?
So I guess the best way to go is look at me at CatholicCharities.org, so ccstl.org, or then again on my LinkedIn profile, I think it's just as simply as linkedin.com/Jared H. Bryson.
Mhm. Yes, and you can join Jared on his He's in the
Subject.
top 5%
There you go.
LinkedIn influencers. Big
I have
deal.
a new fun fact for myself that I didn't even know about. So that's great. Thanks.
Add it to your resume.
That's it.
Okay, Jared, it was so nice to talk. And we'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thanks again, Bridget.
Bye.
Bye now.